Welcome to Hattie Cousain's Raw Talent. I am Hattie Cousain, and tonight we are dealing with a most delicate but deadly subject matter, a disease that is threatening the lives of thousands of Americans throughout the country and other countries as well. The disease is a major problem among blacks. We are discussing AIDS tonight with Dr. Wilbert Jordan, Director of the AIDS program at King Drew Medical Center. Welcome, Dr. Jordan. Dr. Jordan, for those in our audience who are not aware of what AIDS actually is, would you please tell us exactly what AIDS is?
AIDS is a disease caused by a virus. Now, to understand what is occurring, let me use you as an example, if I may. First, you are exposed to the virus. Once you are exposed or infected by the virus, it will cause you to lose your immune system. Or as Grandma used to say, your resistance becomes lowered. In this instance, it becomes lowered and it stays lowered. So you lose your resistance, you lose your immunity. Once you have lost your immunity, you are then left susceptible or open to get a variety of infections and diseases like the skin cancer that you now normally come in contact with every day, and your body is able to defend yourself. So what AIDS is, one, the person is exposed to the virus causes him or her to lose their immune system. Because they have no immunity, they then are left open to a variety of infections and disease states that kill them.
Okay, and how does one contact this dreadful disease?
It is a disease contacted by exchange of body fluids or blood. Again, to use us as examples, if we were drug users and if you have the disease and we share a needle and then I inject myself with a needle after you have used it, I can get the disease because I have infected myself with your blood. Likewise, sexually, if an infected person has sex with a non-infected person and that person takes into their body that person's body fluid, i.e. semen or blood, they can become infected, whether rectally, swallowing, etc.
I see.
You understand the disease has been around for a number of years, at least 5. We're talking 1981. Could you shed some light on that?
The first cases were isolated or reported in 81, interestingly in New York and Los Angeles at the same time. Up until 82, there I think were less than 100 cases in the country. Presently, there are over 35,000 cases in the United States. There are 50,000 cases worldwide. So for the first year and a half, all of the cases reported were in the United States. More than half of the reported cases still are from this country. 25% of all cases in this country are in black people. 50% of all cases in women in this country. And it's important to understand, 50% of all cases in women are black. Of children who have the disease, 60% are black. So I am not saying that 60% of all children, of all black kids have the disease, so it's important to understand the difference. I'm saying that of all children who have the disease, 60% are black. Of all women who have the disease, 50% are black. That's a very high and disproportionate number of cases.
Why is it so prevalent among blacks?
It is prevalent. I think the way it became really epidemic was through drug use. And particularly the East Coast, which is where we have the high percent is the East Coast and drug users. And the problem we have in the black community is in the drug use population, also in the bisexual population. Those are the two entryways in which we have cultural uniqueness that we really haven't dealt with as a people and as a culture. And because of that, it has allowed itself to spread more. AIDS as a disease sort of really blends into a culture where there are secrets and one doesn't deal with certain things.
How does one contract this dreadful disease?
There are 3 stages. First, there is simply having a positive blood test or being HIV positive. That does not mean you will get AIDS. It means you've been infected with the virus. The same as having a positive TB skin test doesn't mean you will get TB. It means you've been exposed to someone who had TB and your body has walled it off, but you are positive. Well, the first stage basically is the person who has a positive blood test for the virus. That person is still thought to be infectious and may be able to infect someone else. But that does not mean that that person is necessarily going to die from AIDS or get AIDS. That's important for people to understand. The second stage is what is called ARC, or AIDS-related complex. Those are persons who have symptoms. They've been exposed to the virus, their blood test is positive, they usually have very large lymph glands, you can see them from a distance, unexplained weight loss, fever, but they do not have any particular disease or infection. Now, the AIDS itself, before one can be diagnosed to have AIDS, he or she must have an infection, one of the opportunistic infections or the skin cancer. Without that, you don't have AIDS.
I see. Why is this disease so prevalent among blacks?
Well, in this, nationwide, 25% of all cases are in black, which means the rate nationwide is 2.5 times as high. In New York and in LA, it is even higher in terms of just having a positive blood test or the disease itself. In the East Coast, it is very high because of IV drug use. And that's where it really hit and hit hard. That's a very difficult population to deal with. The white gay community mobilized itself. And when the first cases were being found and noted in the gay community, very little attention was being given to it by the, quote, heterosexual or straight community. They mobilized themselves and started educating themselves about the disease. To the point now, I think if you were to go to a gay community in this city, it'd be very hard to find someone who doesn't know about AIDS, how it's transmitted, what the signs and symptoms are, what to or not to do. The black community has not done that. It has been heavy in the drug use community. IV drug users are not a subculture that is organized or that has any concern. It is a political community. It is basically one of your social undesirable segments of the community. Being a drug user is much more difficult to control oneself or contain oneself than through a sexual route. If you are a drug addict and you need a fix, I can tell you here is some whatever you want right here in front of you, but it is infected with the AIDS virus. If you need a fix, you won't care.
You'll take it.
Because you're going to take it. You need that fix. That fix controls you. That person has no concept of responsibility or no feeling of responsibility, obligation, social conscience, anything else. He or she needs that fix. That fix runs their lives. And when they need it, they will do anything to get it. They will share a needle with anybody. They will infect anyone or take anything else. So it becomes a big problem. Therefore, we have to deal with that problem. How do we, in this community, deal with the fact that a lot of our persons are drug users? Do we try to give out these clean needles, or do we do like we did in the smallpox program and educate the family members around them? I personally think it's much better to really spend time concentrating on family members and friends of a drug user. I don't think, unless you want to change, I can change you if you are a drug.
Dr. Jordan, you stated that the white gay community immobilized themselves to educate themselves about prevention of AIDS and all that. How can we apply that to the black community? Should we wait for it to be done in schools or government funding? Should it start with the family? Give us some
We
ideas.
shouldn't wait. I think one of the problems with black culture is it is becoming a very passive-aggressive, spoon-feed-me culture. Everyone listening to us should know what AIDS is. It shouldn't be necessary now to tell anyone what is AIDS. We should be discussing what we need to be doing to deal with the problem in the black community. We can't discuss the problem until we go back each time and tell people what it is. That's time wasted. Very few people even will read about it. Information is everywhere. But still, in terms of our culture, the average person is not on his or her own, getting up, going out, and finding out about this. We have to do that. We have to look at how do we best educate people. This is a disease which there's no cure. You can't cure it. You can only change one's behavior, and based on how you can affect that behavior can hopefully save your life. You can deal with two groups of people, those people who have not been exposed to the virus and those who have been exposed to the virus. In both cases, you're talking about affecting their behavior to get them to change. You're talking about a mode of transmission that is basically three ways. Blood transfusion. If you're in an accident or you're sick and you get a blood transfusion, you have very little control over that. We hope the blood is safe. If you're a drug user and you're sharing a needle, that is a high-risk activity. If you're married to someone or living with someone or intimate with someone who is